Mike, you're on the air.
Yes, good day, Paddy.
Good day to you.
Not too bad. I'm calling back with another little bit of information that should concern all the people of this province. But first I want to say, I'm truly an advocate for Newfoundland and Labrador. I love what we have, and I'll go to my grave loving it. So that's why I'm such a big protector. But I'll ask you a question there first. Paddy, what is the most valuable asset to mankind? What would you think the most valuable asset would be?
I don't know. It feels like a bit of a loaded question. I really don't know. How about our health or our children?
Well, you're absolutely right in one sense. But our most valuable asset is our environment.
Okay.
And,
wasn't sure exactly what you were getting at, but fair enough.
If we don't have clean drinking water, if we don't have fresh air, if we don't have any of that, then we're already doomed. Would you say that's right?
Well, water certainly, I think, can be rightfully viewed as the most valuable commodity in the world. I mean, it's a not only precious commodity, they're trading it on the stock market, which is a massive red flag. We're blessed in this country with access to fresh drinking water. This province has a bit of a problem, though. We've got somewhere in the neighborhood of 150 municipalities on boil order advisory. Some have been on for years, if not decades. So, yeah, water's pretty precious stuff, obviously.
It is absolutely precious. And one of the largest water mass on planet Earth is the Great Lakes. It's the largest freshwater mass on planet Earth is the Great Lakes. And through the wisdom of it all and on protection and stuff, you cannot dip your head down in the Great Lakes and drink from it freely. It has to be treated for human consumption. There's mercury, there's microplastics and stuff. So with that said and done, this is what we've done to the planet and stuff and that there into our fresh water supplies. And the more I've dove in to why these windmill projects, these turbine projects are coming to Newfoundland, is because in order to make hydrogen, you need pristine water. And they know that, and that's why they're here. And they can't use the water from the Great Lakes and stuff, and that their pristine water is what they need for the process. And I'm just wondering where all that water is coming, because if these projects, we're not talking millions of cubic meters of water, fresh water. We're talking billions of cubic meters with what government has planned. Now, that's one problem with the supply. The next problem is the disposal of the wastewater, because once it goes through the waste, it either is going to go back into the environment.
No, it'll just be gas.
No, there's a process that comes from. There is wastewater from the process they're using, and that wastewater it can never be treated enough that is perfect for the environment. So we are at the risk here of putting these projects all across our island and this wastewater and the consumption of the wastewater and the fresh water, I should say, and we are really putting ourselves out there. When we already have it, it's pretty much protected, and we have what a lot of the world would die for. You just said it yourself, Paddy. It's a really, really valuable commodity now. Clean water. It really is.
Just maybe I'm missing something here, but isn't the waste product of electrolysis simply hydrogen and oxygen?
My understanding from what I read, and I stand to be corrected, but everything I've read from green energy, and this is what they're calling it, because it's wind-driven and is done from water, everything I've read and studied and whatever, the wastewater is a byproduct of it. And there's sulfates in it, and there's sulfide, and there's a bunch of stuff there that goes back out, and it got to go somewhere.
Yeah, what I read, the volume of water after the process is pretty minuscule. I stand to be corrected because I want to make sure we get the accurate information out there. And how that gets disposed of, I'm going to guess, given the fact that it's going to take place at the Port of Stephenville, in the ocean.
Okay. Well, this is another thing. And there's two ways. When they use fresh water, it comes back out with certain amounts of contaminants in it. And the seawater process, and I dwelled in that because they're looking at it, putting it onshore. Mr. Parsons and his wisdom was trying to rush that one through. But the seawater process takes 3 times as much. And then the wastewater that goes back in the sea affects marine life, crustaceans. All of this stuff is affected by that wastewater. And I'm not claiming to be a scientist here, Paddy, but Google Earth is a wonderful thing. You know what I mean? You can be dumb as a rock, and if you read stuff and you can swallow it, you can become a little bit more intelligent at the end of the day.
Yeah. Now, just for clarity, using seawater like that, whatever process, it loses some salinity, it loses some acidity, and then consequently we change the chemical makeup of it. But for World Energy GH2, the fresh water that they are using is coming from a commercial reservoir that's long been established, used to be owned and operated by Abitibi, and so says their submission to the government. The amount, even if they max out all three phases, but all the turbines that are a part of the play, they do not need anywhere near what's even half of the water that's in that reservoir as it stands today, and of course continually being replenished itself. So that's where their water's coming from, just so people know.
Here's my problem. Here's my problem with this hush-hush Rusty's projects through. Don't all of us as Newfoundlanders deserve that respect? Don't we deserve that information prior to, if it's going to affect our watersheds and wastewater? Should be right bare bones on the table, open for discussion?
Yeah, now, I don't live in one of the regions where these proposals are in place, but I've been told, whether it be on Burin or in Botwood or on the Port Peninsula, that there has been opportunity for people who would be most impacted to have opportunities to speak to the proponents and town halls, how good they've been, how effective they've been, or how forthcoming people have been. I really don't know because I haven't attended any of them. The one thing that I think, if we're talking about the environment, people make interesting points, is with the amount of deforestation and devegetation required to build access roads and to put the windmills in their period, is going to change the composition of the landscape. And consequently, when we talk about some of the turbines that'll be up on hills, then that erosion really does lead to some concerns with how water moves, whether it be from significant rainfall or otherwise. Then it's the height of the bloody turbines. Any of the research that's been done in the world about the impact, whether it be on the environment or the flicker of light and or infrasonic sound, have never been including things like the size of these turbines. Just for context, they're talking about these turbines being 200 meters tall. And Confederation Building, if you've ever seen it and stood in front of it, is 64 meters tall. So these things are absolutely massive.
You're absolutely right, Paddy. And I don't think, everybody's busy in their life and everything, and then sometimes people just get towed along by their nose and stuff, and government's going to do what they're going to do and everything else and stuff. But the enormous environmental damage that can come from this should be, out of the 500,000 people that live here between Newfoundland and Labrador, they should wake up with it in the morning, go to bed with it in the morning, because this is enormous. It can affect generations and generations. And if we don't have clean water after these guys roll up their cords and go home, and that leads to something else. And I'll ask you this, Paddy, maybe some of the viewers out there, listeners out there, can highlight me on this. If hydrogen is the way of the world in this green energy, why is this, let's ask ourselves, why is this a 30-year project, not a forever project? There's a demand for hydrogen. This is the way it's going to go. Well, the demand is only going to increase. And the only conclusion I can come up with that is these corporations, these people realize, they probably already done the math, we'll pretty much have all the water that we can suck out of that province gone, and then we're going to roll up our cords and go home in 30 years. But other than that, I cannot come up with another answer, because you wouldn't invest. Well, the federal government is dumping over, giving them $138 million, and then it's always a loan, of course, but it never, ever gets paid back. But that's right off the get-go for the taxpayers. So the federal government, us, not the federal government, taxpayers, are going to fund this project, $138 million, and that's only the first handout yet. I'm sure there'll be another.
What's this $138 million you're referring to? I'm sorry.
That's a loan that the first project got on the Port Peninsula. What is it, the World Energy or whatever?
Yes, okay.
The federal government has put that on the table for them already.
Yeah, I was just confused by the number. Yeah, it's $128 million, but you're absolutely right. It comes in the form of a line of credit. And that's real. And that's after John Risley himself said he would not need or want or ask for any money from the province and or the feds, even though access to very generous tax credits is absolutely in play. We don't know what they're going to be just yet, because there isn't a definition of green in play at the moment. So, yeah.
Yeah. But, we've got Muskrat Falls. Can this province afford any huge more mistakes and stuff? But I got off track there for a minute, Paddy, and I apologize. But so why the powers that be, or the more, maybe Minister Davis can answer these fellas, or Parsons or something, because they seem to know everything. But why is this a 30-year project if we're going to invest all this money?
But that's more about the lifespan of the turbines themselves, as opposed to the potential for business.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay, and it's like anything else that happens in Newfoundland or whatever and stuff, especially in the mining industry or whatever. There's no bonding put up, there's no securities put up.
They'll have to. There will be. I've asked the minister that repeatedly. When it comes to liabilities regarding decommissioning and other potential liabilities, they're going to have to pony that money up. And I've asked them that every single time we've talked about these projects. Yeah. And they consistently say yes. So I am a bit late for the news, Mike. Anything else very quickly before I have to go?
Yeah, just one more thing to add to what you said and stuff and that. Well, that should be public knowledge. They should post that and say how these bonds and securities put up, and they should make it the public knowledge. But anyway, hopefully these projects will be shut down in their tracks. Hopefully the people of this province will come together and not destroy our tourism industry, destroy our watersheds and our landscape. That's all I can say, and I'll probably call again, Paddy, because this is very near and dear to me, and I know this is near and dear to every Newfoundlander. I
appreciate the time, Mike. Thanks for the call.
Thanks, Paddy. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir. Bye-bye. All right, let's go ahead and take a break. Plenty of time for you right after this. Don't go away. Welcome back to the program. An observation made by several people based on the last phone call we just had, and many prior when we talk about these proposed onshore wind farms, hydrogen, ammonia, export. We all know it. I mean, there's lots of unknowns here, not only regarding the environment, but the interaction with the public grid. We really don't know how that's going to work. But there is a bit of a juxtaposition. Now, I get it. This is very new to us. Windmills are not new. The size and the status and the stature of these are new, though. They're bigger than anything that I've been able to find anywhere else when we talk about onshore. But some people who are talking about this being rushed through really have very limited problem with how we talk about mining and the impact on the environment, oil and the impact on the environment. Some of that is probably because it is new. We have a basic understanding of how those other two industries work. We have a basic understanding of what that means for the environment. We have a basic understanding of what it means for provincial coffers and job creation and what have you. And yes, they're not all the same and they're not easily intertwined, but it is sort of an interesting facet of this. I would also say that there is concerns, whether it be people in Botwood or down the Burin Peninsula or on the Port-au-Port Peninsula, and maybe people in close proximity to Pattern Energy in Argentia, at the Port of Argentia, about this. But it's really quite something, and I think it's fascinating. The real focus on World Energy GH2. Now, of course, when we're talking about something as small as the Port-au-Port Peninsula, and my understanding is if all three phases are completed, that the windmills will occupy some 40% of the peninsula, so it's not insignificant. But it's the presence of John Risley. Now, we had John Risley on this program talking about this. I had him only once. Happy to have him on again, and happy to have the minister on, and happy to do whatever we can do to try to get all the information required out there. But because people know John Risley, and whether you like him or loathe him, or you have any understanding of his business dealings and relationship to the province, he is a bit of a firebrand, for better or worse. And he knows it. And so do his partners. And that focus, whether it be the newness of these proposals and or Mr. Risley, has been really garnered a lot of focus on one proposal, of which there's 5 in the province, but we talk about one. Now, the implications are going to be very similar when we talk about access roads and the amount of deforestation and devegetation, impact on birds and bats and all the rest of it. They're all very, very similar issues. And we can take them on however you see fit. But it is interesting to me when we talk about fast-tracking approvals for mines to take advantage of some of the thirst for critical minerals, even though the prices fell through the floor last year, lithium in particular, 82.3%. I mean, remarkable stuff. So people want to fast-track LNG, want to fast-track the mines, want to fast-track offshore oil development, but not so much on this front. And that's not a pro or con for the proposals themselves. It's just a juxtaposition based on my observation and the observation brought forward by many others who have been following along this conversation. What people are not following along, apparently, is the ongoing the commission into the inquiry into foreign election interference. I'm trying to keep an eye on it because at one point that was the big story in the country. And you know whether or not the Prime Minister was briefed by CSIS over the course of 5 years and did little to nothing or said nothing about it. And that's the way it's been revealed inside the work being done by Justice Oul and the lawyers that are representing all different sides here. Aaron O'Toole yesterday was part of the testimony, as was Michael Chong and others. Michael Chong talked about the fact that when he was voting on a motion about the genocide of the Uyghurs in China, he and his relatives in Hong Kong were attacked, basically. And then Aaron O'Toole talking about the fact that he blames the foreign interference and the way some of the nomination process went and the presentation of a petition to remove him as leader as his demise. But, you know, even when Chen, the member, his name, I think it was Bert Chen put forward this petition to remove Mr. O'Toole from the leadership of the Conservative Party of Canada, it was a long time later, based on upheaval in the party. The party voted him out. The petition didn't bounce him out. So there's been lots of fascinating testimony, including former Liberal member for Don Valley, now sitting as an independent, Han Dong, and his role in dealing with Chinese officials in Canada. And the thought was that he was advising the Chinese officials to relay to Beijing that they should not release Michael Spavor or Michael Korvig. And he, in testimony the other day, said that's not true. And then there's, you know, you take it a step further, and I think of Spavor. The government settled a $7 million lawsuit out of court with Michael Spavor. For what? We have no earthly idea. But that is a big story that really got very little traction as well. So as much as we can focus in on the issues of the day of importance to you, that issue regarding foreign interference in elections is really a critical piece of work being done by Justice Oul and the other members of the commission anyway.